Hello humans and welcome to episode 15 of Chef Mike Does Stuff. I am of course Chef Mike and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making a super special 4-cheese bruschetta. Now this does have a little story for me personally. Back in high school, this was one of the first recipes that I made, tested, and rewrote and brought back to class with another kid I went to culinary school with. So we kind of basically developed the recipe for the first time and made changes. Then in college, I did a big project on different price points of olive oil in the same bruschetta recipe to see what consumers would like or not like, finding that the ultra expensive olive oil was not the preferred olive oil used in this recipe. Kind of a mid-tier one was. This is a recipe that in any family function or friend party, they always want me to make and bring. And what's awesome about it is it's almost more of a cheese dip or sauce than bruschetta. If you do not like tomatoes, this might actually be a great recipe for you because there's so much cheese and garlic to get you that garlic breath in it that you won't even realize there's a whole lot of tomatoes. The other awesome thing is you make it how you want, because if you want it to be more tomatoey, just add less other ingredients. Once again, I am not here to tell you exactly the right recipe on how I make it. It is to give you an idea on how to make your own awesome bruschetta. Another point, if you are a brand, if you have a product that you want featured on Chef Mike Does Stuff, make sure to email me at chefmikedoesstuff@gmail.com and we can talk about getting your product featured in an episode. You want me to just incorporate it in one of the recipes, or I can even make a whole episode based off of the product you want me to talk about. So send me those emails, let people know that I am available for that, as well as if there's any other cool, fun shenanigans on the internet you want me for, give me a ring. I'm always available. So let's get to the cutting board. Let's go ahead with episode 15 of Chef Mike Does Stuff, and I will teach you how to make my super awesome 4-cheese bruschetta. All right, the first thing we're going to do is get our tomatoes ready. Now, I am using, these are Constellation tomatoes. They come in the little pint containers. These ones happen to have some red, some yellow, some heirloom type colors. I believe they are a grape or cherry tomato variety, but these are just what I'm happening to be using today. You can use big old tomatoes. You could cut them up in whatever size you want. But what I'm doing, so if it is a pretty large tomato, I'm cutting it 1, 2, 3 times. So we have pieces like that. And I'm putting it in a, well, now it's in a strainer, but I'll tell you why. But if it's a little tiny tomato, I'm only cutting it into quarters so that the pieces are all relatively the same. Now, one of the reasons why you're seeing me throw this into a strainer is because what I like to do, and I've talked about this before in other episodes with tomatoes, is I cut these all up, I put them in a bowl, and I salted them, okay? And then I let them sit in this strainer for at least a half hour. Now, the reason is it gives it a lot more flavor. It softens them up. It also removes some of the juice. The natural juice from it is coming out of the tomato. And as you can see here, that's a lot of extra juice that now is no longer going to be in my bruschetta. You can leave it in. You're going to have a much looser sauce in your bruschetta, but I like a heavy, pasty cheese type flavor in mine. So I'm going to discard this juice. You obviously can do with it whatever you so desire. You can use it for sauces. You can use it for beverages, whatever you so desire. And I am just going to put the tomatoes back in this bowl. I think it looks really cool with these Constellation tomatoes that we've got a variety of different colors. So I think it's going to look pretty. But as I've said before, it doesn't matter. You got tomatoes in your garden that look all weird colored and ridiculous, but they're delicious. Go ahead and use those. So we got our tomatoes. This is, I think, about 3 pints of cherry or grape tomatoes in total. And like I said, I salted it with maybe a tablespoon or 2 of salt and let it sit in a strainer for about a half hour. So even if you eat these right now, that's made the tomato a little more tender, removed some of the juice. It actually really enhanced the flavor. So tomatoes off to the side. Now what we're going to do is worry about our our cheesy sauce thing in the middle. And I actually have to go grab one other tool that I forgot, and it is a potato masher. Yes, I am getting a potato masher. Now, 4 cheeses in this are feta cheese. All right, so this is one of those retail blocks of feta cheese. Open the package, and I cut it up just to fit in the bowl, but you could leave it whole because we're going to mash it all up. One little thing of goat cheese. This is probably, I think, 3 or 4 ounces or so. And then we have some grated Parmesan cheese. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is break up all of this stuff. This might be a little messy, but what are you going to do? I am actually creating more of a cheesy paste than I am like a traditional olive oil vinegar kind of base, just because it's tasty. I like it. It's delicious. You can totally just make this like cheese base and leave out the tomatoes, and it's a perfectly delicious thing to put on little croutons or crackers or dip stuff in. But hey, you do whatever you so desire. You don't have to mash everything up like this. You could leave it super, super chunky if that's how you want it, with like big pieces and big chunks of cheese in it. That will totally work. Okay. Next thing I'm going to add are my liquid ingredients. The last thing I'm going to do is add olive oil. Now, this recipe, over time, it might look like the olive oil is separating from the rest of it. Cool, that's gonna happen. I'm trying to eliminate as much of that as I can, so we're almost like emulsifying, but not really, because this is not like mayonnaise or a vinaigrette. It will definitely split over time, but then just stir it up and mix it. So I am going to add, this is about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I am going to add about the same amount, maybe a little more, maybe 3 to 4 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. I'm going to add the zest of 1 lemon. Do not add the little glass container that holds the lemon zest. That is not part of the recipe. I am going to add 4 very large cloves of garlic. Now, like I said before in other episodes as well, this is not going to be cooked at all. This fresh garlic is going to burn your mouth. It is going to be that hot, which I think is absolutely delicious. And then I'm going to add a big pinch of salt and a big pinch of black pepper. Okay? Now, keep your little containers off to the side, because later you're going to taste it, and maybe you're going to want to add more salt or more pepper, and that is how you make it your own. You want to make sure you taste it ahead of time before serving it to anybody. Look at that. So you're like, wow, this is going to be a bruschetta. Oh, yes. So even though a lot of that moisture was taken out of the tomatoes, there's still actually quite a bit of moisture still in there. And as well, once we add olive oil to this, it's going to loosen up a little bit and be a little more saucy. Okay? So we got that right there. You could get rid of the potato masher. You could pretend like you know how to use a rubber scraper to get stuff off. Like that. Next thing I am going to add, this is Asiago cheese. This is the 4th cheese. I didn't necessarily want to mash this up with the rest because I do like how the piece size looks. So I'm going to add that. That's maybe 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup. Like so. Mix that in so it's nice and evenly incorporated. Nice. Yes, super heavy, pasty. I can't believe what you're doing. I understand. Now, another reason why I decided to do this recipe is because Andy Lunique, who I did go ahead and make sure I was pronouncing his last name right, because as someone who everybody pronounces my last name wrong, it's just pronounced Harris, like Harris. He did an awesome video on chiffonade. I believe he did it with spinach. Make sure you go visit him, follow him, look at all his content, because he's an amazing chef. But he did a chiffonade, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do that recipe, yada yada. And here we are. So a chiffonade. Basically, I took a bunch of basil. This is a whole bunch of basil I already chiffonaded. I don't know if that's a word, but basically you take your leaves, you kind of line them up like so. It works best if you do all leaves of the same size. Okay, and you just roll it on top of itself nice and tight, like so. I don't know what this is a similar process to, but you may or may not already be used to that. Now, I'm going to take my knife, okay, and real small little chops like so. Look at that. Okay, makes these cool ribbons. All right, this basil has been chiffonaded. I believe that's some garlic skin. Chiffonaded, is that a word? But I add a whole bunch of basil. Let's get back to our bowl. All that basil in here. Yes, that much basil. You could kind of mix it. It's really not going to mix in that well. I don't care if this gets bruised, beaten up, ripped up. It's actually developing some flavors. It's loosening up, you know, the cell walls of the basil getting mixed in with all the other stuff. Look at that. Scrumptious. Okay. Next thing I am going to do now is add my olive oil. I don't know how much olive oil I'm going to add. I'm going to add it in little parts. That's probably a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I'm just going to kind of start mixing it. The goal here is you may see it start splitting eventually, which means no matter how much you mix it, there's going to be just oil pooling and settling all over it. If you get to that point, don't worry, just make it and eat it. It will be delicious, I promise. But our goal here is to add just enough so that way it kind of all mixes together really nice. Now, as you can see, it's getting a little more fluid. It's getting a little more able to be moved around, which is exactly my point before of, yeah, it looks like a big, thick paste, but we're getting there. Let's listen to some soundage. I mean, if that doesn't sound delicious to you, I don't know. I don't know what does. I'm going to add just a tiny little bit more. Maybe is it a 1/4 cup or so more? Like so. You could continue to use the potato masher. You can use a whisk. You can use the spatula, a spoon, whatever the heck you got. All right. So here's our paste. As you can see, still very pasty and somewhat unappetizing, I guess. I mean, it's delicious. You can totally eat it just like that. We're going to take our tomatoes. You'll see when you pour this in that there's still a lot of juice on those tomatoes. That is, once again, going to loosen up the sauce. And here's the part where I'm just going to keep folding. Once again, I do not care if the potatoes, I've been making too many potato recipes. The tomatoes get all mashed up because it's going to, once again, release juices. It's going to keep it nice and tender. Look at that. As you can see, once again, delicious sounding mixing going on. It's not a lot like a lot of bruschettas I've seen out there that are very much more oil and vinegar based. Very cheesy. And I am going to let this sit. It is best like a half hour later. So usually I make this right before the party and then I bring it with. Once you're done, once everyone's done eating, you are going to want to store this in a refrigerator, after everyone has eaten some, because it will absolutely go bad. Let's try a little taste. Now, another thing, we're going to be making some crouton action, little pieces of bread to eat this on. When you eat anything with bread, it will dilute the flavor just a little bit. So if you eat this and it's very, very mild, you're going to want to amp up the flavor. If it's pretty strong, just remember that it might balance out when you eat it with the bread. So, Oh, that is so good. My breath. Oh! I think it needs just a touch more salt. Do another pinch like so. I'm going to add a little more pepper. That flavor lingers. It is delicious. Beautiful. Originally, too, this recipe, I did not use lemon juice. I used just balsamic vinegar. But after, once again, playing around with it, it adds a little bit more of a brightness to it that is pretty tasty. All right. We made a bunch of a mess. I'm going to put this off to the side. I'm going to give this just a quick little wipe down just to keep it a little bit nicer looking. French bread, bought from the store. You're going to be slicing, ooh, I got some sauce on there, like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch slices, like so. I do like a little more fancier bread that's got even these little pockets in there, little air pockets. It's delicious. Now, here's a big choice you have. You can totally serve this with croutons or like toast points from a box. They're incredibly crunchy. Some people like that. You could grill these on both sides and make them extra crunchy yourself. However, I think the best eating experience is if you do just a touch of olive oil on each one. We're going to put this in a broiler, so that's where the heat is coming from the top. And I am just going to brown one side. The reason is I like it when it's really easy to bite through. These are 2-bite pieces. If you had a really crisp and crunchy one, sometimes those shatter and fall apart on you. This kind of makes it a little more finger food friendly, appetizer-ish. And I'm going to put these in the broiler. And then when we come back, I'm going to eat a whole bunch of this. And then maybe you'll smell my breath through the phone. So after I broil this, I will see you in the end for a little fancy plate presentation. All right, and our little toast points are complete, are finished. You could see I only toasted one side. The other side is very much still like bread, and this side is very crunchy. Another fancy thing I'm going to do, because I think Andy would appreciate it, is we're going to quenelle our bruschetta onto these little toast points. Here, I better do it a little more. One thing I learned, do the things on camera, because that's probably a smart thing to do when you're trying to teach people to do stuff. Hup! Got a little toasty crackery thingamabobber. I got 2 spoons. Basically, almost 1 spoonful, so this is going to be the portion that we're going to put on there. To quenelle something, you're basically shaping it with 2 of your spoons. Now, this is not obviously going to hold together like, let's say, Play-Doh or whatever. But basically, I'm making these little 3-sided football-shaped something or others that I am then going to just drop right on there. Okay? This is just so you equal portions. It'll look nice. Let's go ahead and do a couple more. Now, one of the other things I was gonna do is, so I'm gonna garnish this with a little bit of shredded Asiago cheese. I used all the basil. Usually, I save a little off to the side, so that way I can sprinkle some over the top. But I didn't do that. Oh, better go that way. Here we go. How about while I'm talking and doing this, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, retweet, repost, carrier pigeon. I don't remember if I ever said that one yet. Let the people know about Chef Mike Does Stuff. I would like to continue to do this more. I would like to use your brand's product in my videos. I would like to make this something I could keep doing for a long time. So please, reach out to me. chefmikedoesstuff@gmail.com if you would like me to make stuff with your stuff. Whoa. All right, so we got this one. I'm going to do one last little quenelle. And then I'm just going to sprinkle a little cheese over the top, and we will be good to go. They actually sometimes make special spoons that are like better for this type of thing, that are very much even across the entire area of the spoon, but hey, I'm using what I got in my drawer. Like that. These are also pretty heavy. I do know that I like this bruschetta a lot, and it's very intensely flavored, but you, of course, don't need to put as much on it. So here's where I would sprinkle a little of that basil. I'm just going to sprinkle a little cheese over the top, like so. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Like I said, if I had basil, if I maybe did like a balsamic reduction, I could just like do a little bit of drizzle action over the top like that. But hey, I'm using what I got because I didn't save any. So instead of cutting again, I'm just going to turn my phone up like this. There's the camera. Do you want to make your own tomato bruschetta? You should watch this video. Do you want to make something like a bruschetta? You should totally watch this video and make it your own. Use different tomatoes, use different cheeses, use a different carrier, use a different type of oil, maybe use a different type of vinegar. Make it not so Mediterranean. Maybe make it like barbecue bruschetta. I don't know. Asian inspired, Middle Eastern inspired, African inspired. Something in the UK, maybe do like something with Stilton and I don't know, some fancy English stuff. Make whatever you want and with whatever you got. So that is the end of the episode. Oh, you could also do this family style where you just put out a bowl of bruschetta, which is usually what I do, and a bunch of these little crackers and let people feed themselves because I get lazy. Anyway, once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, retweet, all that fun stuff. If you have questions, if you want me to use your product, if you want me to be in your things, chefmikedoesstuff@gmail.com. And remember, most importantly, is subscribe to my YouTube channel because you are not going to want to miss when Chef Mike does stuff. Okay, I'm going to eat this and get bad breath. Okay, bye. Let's see if you can hear it. I feel the burn. Oh, so good. Maybe one more.